Mary tonight. I'm the Vice Chairman of the Health and Emergency Services Committee. I'm calling this meeting to order on August 7th at 5 o'clock in room 1112. And going to call to order. Anyone want to take the invitation?
Jesus, thank you for this day. Thank you for this time we have together. Help us, Lord, to do the people's business, Lord, and do it for the benefit of the people, not of ourselves, Lord. Help this time go smoothly, and we ask all these things in your name. Amen.
We're next on the is the approval of the agenda. We have a motion.
So moved.
All in favor?
Aye. Just a minute.
Approval of the minutes.
Who's the second? Okay, you got it.
No, he was Commissioner Harrison, so move. Okay, second. Okay. I got something on the minutes.
Approval of the minutes for July 3rd, 2023. Do I have a motion?
No, not to approve. I want to just add one thing on there, on the very last item, it's just got the wrong name to it. You were the acting chairperson on that.
I know, maybe.
That's all I was going to say on, then I would give to approve.
So approval of the minutes, I'd like to discuss, if he's right, there is some error on the minutes. If you go to the very back, it has Gerald Rogers included in the meeting. He wasn't here. It was myself. Says adjournment, Chairman Rogers declared the meeting adjourned at 5:50 upon the motion by Commissioner Burgum and seconded by Commissioner Jones. It was myself who did that. Anyone else have anything on the minutes? All approval of the minutes from July 23rd?
Motion approved. Second.
Everyone, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Okay.
Chairman, show me abstaining. I was absent last week.
You were absent. That's right. The next thing on the agenda is recognition of the public. For the first person, you have, how many minutes? 3 minutes? 5 minutes. You have 5 minutes. You'll come up, you'll state your name and your address, and let us know what your opinion. And so the first one is Kathy Orland.
Good afternoon, evening, everybody. My name is Kathy Arlen. I live at 231 Chipaway Drive in Gallatin. And I'm here to speak on the topic of Sumner County Animal Control. I have lived in Gallatin now for a little over 3 years. And I've been a rescue animal welfare advocate for pretty much my entire life. So coming to Gallatin, Sumner County from Cincinnati, just kind of looking at some of the things that have happened. And I've been very disturbed over the last month because animal control was closed for nearly an entire month, which caused us to look at some items that kind of made that a little bit more challenging. One of those items is I do have a copy of what I believe is the current budget. And I understand the budget is just an earmark of funds, so it doesn't necessarily say what's actually happening. But some of the things that concern me is that almost, I'm going to use round numbers here just so that we don't have to nickel and dime it, but about $450,000 is earmarked to other things, including $67,000 earmarked to veterinary services. Veterinary services, we're not entirely sure what that entails, because many of the animals leave without being vaccinated, without being spayed and neutered, and cannot understand why that would be the case, because the problem just continues to be perpetuated if that is the case. $67,000 for veterinary. Are they there on a daily basis? We understand the deputies actually can do euthanasia, so we're not entirely sure why there would be that kind of expense for veterinary. Vaccines are not happening, the spay neuter is not happening, so we're curious about that amount. We have other amounts like, I believe veterinary services, vehicle maintenance and gasoline is about $24,000 altogether. From some records that I have obtained, it looks like about 100 animals were brought in by the Sheriff's Department to animal control. So that's a lot per animal as far as how much is being spent on the maintenance and the gasoline. I travel a lot, so I have the actually gone up, but perhaps not that much. So those are some of the things that are concerning about the budget, including things like staff development of $5,000 and communication of $4,000. We would like to see a little more transparency about what those actually are. So we are, again, concerned about the vaccinations and the spay neuters. And also, there's a $33,000 budget item for animal food and supplies. And we're under the understanding that we do have a contract from categories from the Mars Corporation that is a donation of the food. So we're wondering where that also is earmarked to. Intake numbers, in the first 6 months, I mentioned that 100 animals were brought in by the Sheriff's Department, and we do have some facts on that, on the shelter stats. We noticed that 14 animals were just deceased, and we don't know any information about why they're just deceased. That seems very odd. 129 animals year-to-date have been euthanized. Again, no statistics as to what occurred for those animals to be euthanized. Other questions that we have that are not readily available on any public site: are there volunteer programs, are there foster programs for Sumner County Animal Control? So really, I believe that the citizens and the taxpayers of Sumner County are really looking for something more. And so my ask is that there's more accountability, more transparency. We would like to see a community advisory board for Sumner County Animal Control. I would like to propose dog licensing that brings in money for the shelter. It's not an involuntary thing that when kids come to the house and they ask you to do it, but it does help reunite animals, and it brings in money for the shelter. And my final ask would be that the commissioners consider licensing and contracting with a qualified 501c3 rescue organization rather than the Sheriff's Department to take care of animal control. Thank you.
June McNamara. Give us your name and address.
My name is June McMahon. My address is 2160 South Parker Road. And that's the old Highway 1 north up towards Portland, so before that. I'm with the Sumner County Sumner Spay Neuter Alliance. And we've been in operation for 12 years. We used to service animal control for their spay neuter. And we work very well with them. However, at one point in time, their animals were so very sick that we had to talk with them, we asked them, we referred with them, we had meetings, and nothing changed, so we had to tell them that we couldn't take their animals anymore. Now, that letter that I just passed you on, that is the letter, and some of you may not be aware, that letter that went out in 2010, we still are not taking care of their animals for spay neuter because, well, none of the changes had been made, but we were going to give it a try. And we had Mr. Carlett, and we were going to give it a try, but they said they're too short-staffed to bring them out. So. But anyway, I've also included a copy of, I'm here to speak also on the behalf of the forming the committee that Kathy mentioned. I've included a short list of what the responsibilities of that committee would be. like I said, we had to stop fixing the animals when we sent that letter. Overall, we were recommending changes be made by a qualified professional person. In most cities, sheriff does not take care of the animal control unless they have a very large budget. They are a model facility and they do everything. But in that letter, the changes we were asking for was a recommended cleaning procedure, something that would kill germs, not just weeds, but something that would kill germs and keep the animals a little healthier. Everybody knows that an animal shelter can be like a daycare center. Germs can pass around, but there are procedures that you can take. A big thing is the intake procedure of their animals. We have been, and we even gave them free vaccinations. We've been trying to get them to vaccinate their animals on intake. Where, as many times, animals would come in very thin and unhealthy and didn't come in that way because some poor people swallow them and everything. But you weigh them, you take a picture, you give them a short exam, you vaccinate them, you deworm them, and you can even heartworm test them, but that can come a little later. So again, those intake procedures will help to ensure that animals are healthy. A managed intake plan, that would be taking the number of cages, the square feet of your facility, determining how many animals you can actually have at one time. And overcrowded animals are very susceptible, especially cats, to stress. They get stressed and they get sick, and then you have to put them to sleep. A medical protocol for sick and injured animals. They may have a little something now, I'm not sure, but a medical procedure that a sick animal or an injured animal comes in that it doesn't just lay there in its cage and it has in the past and died or even paid. Qualified, knowledgeable personnel be hired. And that would, nothing against the sheriff's department, deputies are wonderful and all that stuff, doing their deputy jobs, but we have to face it, they don't know anything about animal control. And that's it in a nutshell. Nothing against Mr. Tarlecki. He has been very open to anything we've suggested. I think he's open to a lot of these changes, but I think his hands are maybe tied by budget restraints. So that could be a thing. But like I said, he gave them vaccinations, so we can let the city start using. They also need a veterinarian that will spend the necessary time to assess the animals, keep them healthy, make recommendations on medications. They have to have the budget to have medications there. Now, on that note, there's $67,000 in the budget for veterinary services, like Kathy said. We don't know what that includes. However, $67,000 is a 2-3 days a week and make the proper assessments. And all of these things come to the point, keeping the animals healthy, adopting out animals that are healthy, reputation that people have in the community. Okay, many times professional animal control a search will be done for a director. And I'll leave you with that, and thank you very much.
Next is Kevin Bagger.
Just in time, Commissioner. All right, Kevin Baker, 424 AB Way Road. A couple things, and I'm going to get to the animal control part, but when I saw the Homeland Security District 5 grant, it made me think of a couple of conversations I had a couple of months ago when I was told right to my face that there's never any strings attached to these things. But I read through the grants, and there's 15 plus pages of nothing but strings of how you'll follow. Especially in this day and age, with the militarization of our police departments, and it's not without precedence. Anybody remember what happened in 1861 in Maryland? When the federal government went in and took over the state legislature so that they could not become a southern state. So I'm a little concerned about that. Anyhow, the $125,000 isn't a lot of money. If we need to be spending that stuff, we should be spending that money, not relying on the federal government. Because when they come in and tell us, sorry, you can't do that, and they pull it back, are we going to side with the citizens, or are we going to side with our federal overlords? You know, especially in this day and age when we've got a former president being all kinds of trumped up charges and being indicted on things. And the grant specifically says the grantee supports the implementation of state homeland security strategies by addressing the identified planning, equipment, training, blah, 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 and recovery from acts of terrorism. It wasn't that long ago that some of us in this room were being called domestic terrorists because we happened to be in Washington, D.C. on January 6th. So it's not that far down the road. But that leads me into the second grant, where we're talking about getting money for some civil justice, criminal justice programs, and I think that's all good. You know, we need to spend money and train our people and stuff like that. But specifically, I saw in the verbiage where, you know, we don't have enough people, time, and resources to do the things that law enforcement is supposed to do. This is my segue into the animal control. Our deputies only control part of the animal control. Our trustees, I'm not sure why we use the word trustee, because that's also who I pay my taxes to. So we have trustees watching the animals and trustees who's taking my money. I'll let y'all figure that out. Is that the best utilization of our law enforcement people? You know, even if they have to watch over the trustees, they've got to keep half an eye on that. I'm a firm believer, anything that we can privatize, we should privatize. And animal control seems to me to be the kind of thing that we should privatize. You know, I didn't do the digging. You know, I keep my ear to the wall through Sumner Taxpayer Alliance, and I started to get a little jingle on the line that people were concerned about this. I didn't do a lot of digging into it. When I hear the numbers we're talking about for dollars and cents, it seems like we could probably come up with a win-win situation where our law enforcement people spend time on law enforcement, and our animal control people, or people interested in controlling animals, they spend that, and I don't know, just food for thought. It was great to hear and see people come and support their ideas, but I'll leave it in the capable hands of this committee to move forward. That's all I got to say, folks. Have a great one.
I'm going to hand over the meeting now to Chairman Bill Rogers. He can help. He'll take over.
36, quite a bit bigger today, 65, so, you're on it.
All right, for the chair, I would ask, I think it's this committee that we asked for a list of county properties from the mayor. Do we have that, or do we know where that may be?
I thought I emailed that out, see, I'll email it to you tonight.
Okay, that's fine, and he may have, it just may be in the list.
I'll email it again just to make sure.
Yeah, maybe a list of something. I want just give me a second, please. Just give me a second. And then also, my understanding that Ken is here. I'll let him give his report over that. And that's all the report I have. Go ahead, Commissioner Gunn.
I was just gonna say, I know that our store general operations systems may want to include them.
I'll just send it to all commissioners. Yeah, perfect. Makes it easy.
All right, now we have the report of the sheriff. Sorry, I skipped the county mayor. Go ahead with your report.
Fine, no,
Go ahead. All right, now we go to the county sheriff. Report of the sheriff.
Good afternoon. All right, total deposits for the month of $35,333.71. No disbursements, 4,965 calls for service. Average daily population, 675 in the jail. That's obviously trending upwards. Our vacancies, you'll notice right up under the tab, it shows numbers that we hired people on the 4th. So the top line is for effective July 31st. The bottom line is effective, like, right now, you can look up stats of our first month. Going to budget this month, no health transport grant carryover, capital carryover for vehicles, and drug fund request for some equipment. One of the emergent issues is that on 7/21, we had another roof leak at the jail. Storm came in, damaged, took some of the siding off, exposed the wood, took some of the rubber up, called the mayor, President him, got a quick repair. So it's another temporary repair, and that's something I would like to see pushed along with the roof on the jail. Chairman, you want to talk about animal control now, or want to cover it all?
You can, and then others lead into the rest of it.
All right, so on 7/6, we had to close down control. A little backstory of that, Lieutenant Parlaki, who is awesome. He's just irreplaceable in my mind. Notice told the dogs were sick, that we couldn't quarantine them. Our facility is just not set for quarantine, right? So he comes in day later, notice it's starting to spread. Gets the vet on the phone, the vet gives us some advice over the phone. That makes its way up the chain. No, he's a vet here. So the vet come on site, right? There were some comments about how easy it was to get a vet there, and that the salary would have a vet there a couple days a week. I'm telling you right now that I've tried to have a vet on site, and it's just not easy, right? I basically tell this emergency, I need to come here and tell you what to do. I'm a crowd guy, right? I'm not a dog guy. I won't argue that with anybody in the room. Never in my life when I thought I'll be a police officer, and I think I would be in charge of animal control, but here I am. So, got the vet on site, vet evaluated everything, gave us some immediate recommendations, and one of those was shut it down. No intake, no outtake, let's do some sampling, here's some antibiotics. The initial thought it was canine influenza, turned out to be no. Results came back, we had to change antibiotics, so that caused a little bit of a delay in reopening the shelter. However, we did have the vet come out a couple more times. His recommendation every time was figure out how to quarantine the dogs separate when you bring them in, and keep the shelter closed, no intake, no outtake. He wanted all the dogs symptom-free for 5 days before he allowed the dogs to go out. And his rationale was this is what was communicated to me. You could come and get a dog that seemed healthy. There was no signs of anything, but he could be infected, and you got him home, you could infect your dogs. So there was a little bit of a, we don't really know, but we know that if we keep them here, we're not making the general public so sick. So, again, cop, not animal guy, so I followed that advice. That's all I need to do at the time. We did work with a kennel company. The area where Sumner Spay and Neuter used to be is now used by Ball State Community College about 2 hours a week. So we got with a kennel company who designed us the kennels that go. They're off the ground. They have some drainage, so we can use the existing drainage in the building. It's about a $21,000 cost, but that will allow us to set up quarantine for dogs that are brought in. Here's another thing, right? No one brings a healthy dog animal control to the center. That's just, they bring the dogs they don't want, and for a reason. We pick dogs up on the side of the road, so it's just not easy. In this, if you guys will remember back in our budget cycle, we requested an air disinfectant system for animal control. That's been installed. Ironically enough, the site visit was the day that we had to shut down animal control. Which how it all works out. Questions?
I did. What happened, so I had gotten several calls, and a lot of the animals that were turned away were sent to the nonprofit. And so is there any, for them, that's an extra burden with dog food and care. Is there any kind of monetary thought of helping them with that or donation-wise? I find we have a lot of overburdened rescue anyway, and unfortunately, it's not getting better. So is there anything that's done for the situation where these folks are being compensated or given help?
I don't think that legal back is anything for my budget. Right? I think maybe the 501c3 nonprofit board that the county commission in charge of. I think that if I gave them money out of my budget, that man over there would be telling me no, I was going to leave these funds.
Okay, so in that sense, then when they're told to take the dogs to the nonprofit, what happens with the nonprofit says we can't take them to the line?
Well, we started looking at that other nonprofit, the Humane Society, honestly, I don't have a perfect answer to this. There's no perfect answer.
I'm trying to understand, the burden here, because, I think they try to do a really good job of it, and they can't help this card. I understand that, but I also think that, there's some issues. I'd really love for us to committee would be helpful for sure.
I don't think so. I mean, we have a vet that comes and gives us recommendations. Who's the vet?
Yeah.
It's through Dr. Towns. Dr. Lewis is the one that came out on this week, Dr. Towns, Macon County. Well, yes, Macon and Trousdale, so they did.
Mr. Chairman, just a point of order, with this discussion is proper, we need to wait until the 14th.
That's where I was going there.
Okay. I do want to ask some questions, but I know we can keep on going.
Yeah, we'll bring that back up to you for that.
Thank you, sir.
All right, report of hard work. No problem.
Passed sheets around everybody. Month of July, 476 calls for service. That was 10 more compared to July 2024.
Thanks, sir. All right, report of emergency service director.
Good evening. That's my report out here, so right on top, you see the calls and transports for July of 2023. We had 2,152 calls with 1,657 transports. And then the next page over is the breakdown of that between all of our stations. So you kind of get an idea of who runs and who's a little bit slower, but I'll do raises up.
No, that's all right.
I saw that on our So, third page you see is our EMS revenue. So the yellow slice is July of 2023. So we brought in $725,060. We were projected at $8.8 million. So our total is in the orange, which is $9,462,399. So we came in over our projected, and again, like I said last month, that starts at our crews on the street. As far as that, so the next page is the tracking of the responses outside of Sumner County and other counties responding into Sumner County. Start to kind of get a little see trends. We did have February and March with Davidson County. We did have an increase. That's right there on 65. That will stretch to 65 and into Billetsville itself too. So that's where that comes from. But for last month, you see Robertson County, and still we go into Robertson County about 23 times last month. They came into Sumner County around 27 times. So that was just that. Any questions? Yes, sir.
But, would you attribute the difference for the $250,000 difference in June and July to?
I think, like last month when I was talking about, we did have that kind of that record month. We kind of had a push right there at the end. Our billing clerks went back and kind of fine-toothed everything, anything that, like any kind of denials, we worked those a little bit harder. We called up, make sure there was nobody, nothing was real far behind. We try to stay within 3 days and no later than 5 days billing those calls. So it was kind of, one of those, we're right here at the end of the budget year, so let's make a big push for it. And I think a lot of that, you can see, flip back to the first page and see we ran a little bit more calls and in June, which would have started showing up in July. And I'm sorry, I don't have the numbers for May, but I would say probably April and May, our volume was up a little bit too, so that can help contribute to a little bit more revenue coming in. Anything else? No more?
Thank you, sir. Report of the emergency management.
Mr. Chairman, Commissioner. So an update on hazard mitigation, I sent an email and asked what the status of the plan was, and we expected it back actually a couple of weeks ago. And we don't have that, but I do not have an exact week, obviously not a date, but when we get that, I'll get that sent out, so you can review that and we can consider for resolution. June or July has been rather busy for us. We've had a lot going on, and one thing I want to touch on for this body and the whole commission is with all the weather we've had going on, I send emails to mayors, mayoral assistants, utilities, hospitals, schools, police, fire, EMS, commissioners, and I don't want to make you complacent with the information I send out, but as we know, weather is difficult. So we get a prediction that we could have potential severe weather, and today, luckily, it moved past us. They got some severe weather east of us. A lot of times when we see severe weather west of us, they'll move the target over us. We see that way too many times. So my goal is to not make you complacent. So if you have any issues with that, let me know. And I really try not to blow you up on things like that. And actually, the COVID text, if it's something pressing, I'll send you a text to the entire group. And that's not cool.
Y'all didn't have very many calls in July, did you?
Oh my gosh, we ran four times, and July was a busy month. We found all but one remains to advertise, and our K-9 team's not done with that. They want to do some more work on it.
Good, thanks, sir. Did we have ECC?
They are actually at code in that.
Be sure to look at Gallatin Police Department's Facebook page. They had the actual engineers from Motorola in their center. So for the Motorola radios that police officers use, those actual engineers in Japan, they're
So the engineers from Kenwood Radio came in, and they want to talk about the Kenwood Radio and how we use it in Sumner County. And so they were here for an hour and a half today. And there were 7 engineers that flew in. They're here for ATCO, the American Public Safety Communications Association, which is being held in Nashville this year. So they scheduled to come up here and look at the use of Kenwood radio.
I just thought it was pretty cool that the actual engineers that's making Kenwood in our facility. I know some of y'all think, well, no, that's crazy, who's scared, but I thought it was pretty cool. All right. Now, under the old business, gosh, and in your eyes, just told everything you want to hear. All right, so, this is something I came up with probably a couple of months ago. We'll go based on the will of the committee, however, I don't think that we require any of the other volunteer agencies to report, or non-profit agencies to report. The sheriff, EMS, EMA, and then the ECC, they have, most of those have elected officials, and then the ECC has a board of people that they
We have a motion to discuss this.
Do we have to? Who's made it?
Need a second. I'll second for the sake of discussing. if that opens up discussion.
Which one? Where? Go ahead.
I wanted to ask just a little bit about the history behind it. I thought we made a move to bring it to report to this committee just a few months ago, and now we're changing it back to where it was with the mayor, and I want to know why for both, because we never really got one solid before we switched back to the way it was, and we want to hear a little bit about why we can, why we shouldn't, why we should. I know the county attorney has weighed in on this, and I just want to hear a little bit about Hall before I make my decision on that.
So, Ken, Mike, you something to
Yeah, what I was going to offer, I can't speak for the sheriff because that's an independent constitutional office, as well as the volunteer fire departments, but I'd be more than happy under the mayor's report to report on all of these agencies on their behalf. That gives them the opportunity, unless they have something specific on the agenda, where they don't have to work overtime and come in to give these reports. I'll be happy to do that on their behalf and continue the information coming to the committee.
That sounds great to me, and that's actually where I was going with all. So, Commissioner Jones's side, what I learned a few months back, is that these divisions are under the executive branch of government, which is obviously the mayor. The mayor brings the report or brings the ask of those divisions. It's up to this body, as far as I understand, I'm gonna give a legal advice without a law degree. As far as I understand, it's up to this body to say, yeah, we like that idea, let's go ahead and send it to budget to fund it. So that's the rationale of my thing, is to actually have the branches of government separate like it should be, not them coming to us, because when we was at the day-to-day operations, if you will, of EMS, reporting to this body, that's when I learned from CTAS that if we have them coming and bringing us reports, it's a fine line there whether we're doing day-to-day operations or not. So that's where it came in at.
I understand at budget time how that may be so, but I just think it's been very important to hear from the department heads themselves, because we've generated questions from statements that they've made here in the committee that I think we could handle on the same night. If it's, they give a report to the mayor, and the mayor gives a report to us, that adds another layer of having to go back to ask him a question, to go ask them to bring to us. I think it's important to have them here. I don't know where the problem is as far as authority and branches of power that are supposed to be over the certain department heads, but I think we should at least see what's wrong with doing it the way we started a couple of months ago when we made the move to bring it in here. I want to hear from the county attorney or somebody saying why that's a bad thing.
I thought that's what I just explained. So when we was going from the idea of EMS reporting to us on the day-to-day operations, that's when this came about, this discovery came about, that if we're reporting, technically we do, for lack of a better word, control their day-to-day operations, because we financially fund EMS, we financially fund the sheriff, we financially fund all these people here. But the day-to-day operations and them actually giving us a report is like as if we're governing those branches of, I was explaining to it from CTAS. And we don't require any other 501c3 to come in here and give us a report on how they do their money. The only thing is with the volunteer fire departments, me personally, I would like to see them come here for an ask if they have to buy new apparatus, and we have a receipt. Come to the committee that has that governing, if you will, and then send it to budget. Commissioner Harrison?
With the exception of the sheriff's department and I believe the county volunteer fire department, these folks are already answering.
Correct.
Day working is going on there. Why should he not be? I mean, just look at the issues.
arrives for legal form.
There's a couple things I'd like to know. First of all, is that from CCAS document?
I've got it in the email, I believe, somewhere yet. I mean, I don't come in here making up stuff.
No, I didn't say you did.
I just want to make sure that we're on the record that I'm not making up
I
something.
didn't say you did.
It's okay.
So, I personally don't think that we're getting day-to-day operations here, we're getting reports of what they've done for 2 months. And I find that we've been doing it, since I've been a commissioner, that we've been getting a report. To add it to the mayor's office, like he said, to add another layer of he said, she said, kind of, to me, that takes us out of the loop. And I feel like if you take us out of the loop, then, we're not going to really know. Not that the mayor would give us any information. So, I'm not sure why all of a sudden we decided we don't want to do this. I don't know what the motive here is, and I feel like, it really gives all of us the dog pound. I mean, things like that. And that's not going to be the same thing we'll be able to do with the mayor, because the mayor is going to be in the middle.
I think that the intent, let me say it this way, the intent is to have it go back to the branch of government, which it should. And if we're building the agendas the way we should be building the agendas, we'll be able to see what's coming on the agenda, and we can go back and request to the mayor that that department head be here, if there's an item on that agenda that's controversial and has to be discussed. I can't, go ahead, Mr. Mayor.
Another thing I want to make sure we understand is, so we have never moved it under us, like this, we're talking about it, we never made it move it, right? Super, just to do it, now we're going back to it, is that correct?
So let's make sure we're all clear. So when we took office on September 1st, the previous commission had these branches of, these bodies reporting to Health and Emergency Services. This county commission, as far as I know and can recall, we did not ask these departments to come and give us a report. This has been standing in this county for years.
Under the mayor.
Under the Health and Emergency Services.
So then why are we calling it?
Because I think it's incorrect. I think because the sheriff is an elected official that is under, EMA operates under the mayor, EMS operates under the mayor, and according to CTAS in writing, that they have said that it's almost like we're taking a day-to-day operations report from these departments. I'm not trying to sway the committee in either way, we've got a motion and a second.
I understand. Is that true that it has been under the Health and Emergency Services committee, that they've been reporting to them, not to the mayor this whole time for years?
I don't know what's been reported to the mayor, I'd have to defer to the mayor on that, but to Chairman's point, you don't have to have a resolution saying you're taking control. There could be implied control aspects of this just by the conduct of the meetings themselves. And my legal advice would be, if it's the mayor that's going to run over that, if there's a need for him to sway or give input on what's going on, and you all have a budgetary restraint, and if there's a need for the attendance of other individuals, either the mayor would provide them or the committee would ask for them to be present, and then you deal with the budgetary aspects of it. The rest of it falls under the mayor, whether he wants it or not. Still creates that clean line, and that is an issue that's been brought up in other areas that's the commission's dealing with, which is legislative, executive, and police power.
I understand the reason for wanting to do that. My main question though from the beginning was, a few months back, several months back, we made the request or motion somebody made to bring this under Health and Emergency Services from the mayor's office. And I don't think it ever
This is
happened.
always,
Now it looks like we're giving it back.
this has always been standing committee. Now, I'll tell you what you may be getting confused on, is when we started the search for the EMS chief. That's when I had put forward, the legislative, the resolution for day-to-day operations to be under Health and Emergency Services. That's the comments, and where all this started from CTAS, you probably really shouldn't be doing that, just as legal just stated, that it's kind of a day-to-day operations oversight. That's why I'm coming back and saying, okay, Commissioner, CTAS has told me that this probably is a good idea. Our legal just said, may not be a good idea. Let's get it clear cut where it needs to be and go forward.
Yeah, I'm fine with the not doing day-to-day stuff. We don't have the capacity to do that, but I do like the month-to-month being informed directly by the department head. Because I've listed a whole page, half a page, side page here of questions based on information we've heard from a report that I would like to dive into, that I will not get from the mayor because it will be direct communication. Not that he's not capable, it's just that he won't know to answer these questions when I'm the person right here in the room that we can request to break a procedure and ask them to have questions. And that's what I'm asking for, is at least keep it the way that we're having here by talking directly to the department head.
Commissioner,
I don't think the intent is not for you, not to know what's going on. You're still gonna have the opportunity to request these folks to come to the meeting if there's something that's on the agenda. I mean, if we get the agendas a week ahead, sometimes 2 weeks ahead, if you see something on the agenda, you can request that department head to be here. I would say, is that not the intent, Mr. Chairman?
that's what I explained while ago, Commissioner Harris, is once we get the agenda and we see that, oh, hey, they're talking about animal control, temporary closure, do we have the sheriff come talk? That's the intent.
That doesn't make any sense to me. I'm sorry.
If you're talking about streamlining government, and if these departments fall under the mayor's purview, I have no problem getting a report directly from the mayor every month, because how many times do you hear issues that we say, let's keep it whole business? So what's the difference? We have a question from the mayor that we don't want answered for. I would rather see you come tomorrow. I would rather see these people, I'm sure they want to be home with their families right now after serving the will of the people and protecting the people. I think they would rather have this spend with their families. I'm just trying to figure, what would be the problem? The mayor presented us a report, and there's a question of me picking up the phone or sending an email to one of these guys out here immediately following the meeting and requesting that they, requesting an answer, or requesting to come to the next meeting.
Then that leaves out everybody else. If you send an email out, say, to someone that you've heard information about the man, and you have a question, and you send an email to that person, then that leaves everybody else.
No, I copy everybody at this table, like I always do with any email. We're talking about streamlining government to make it easier. I'm just figuring, I don't know what their lives are like, but I can figure they might want to be home right now with their family, with their kids. I mean, a lot of this stuff gets kicked to old business anyway. And if it falls under the purview of the mayor, then like what Chairman Rogers is saying,
I'd like to be home too, but they get paid to be here, and they get paid to be here.
yeah, but we're here, I mean, they're out in the field 5, 6, whatever they do. They're on call 24/7. I'm just trying to figure out, does it make sense to streamline it? Because we've got to follow what you're saying. Why are we keeping them here till 6, 7 o'clock at night when they can be home with their families, when they're on call 24/7, that's all I'm saying.
Commissioner, right now, I'll go back to you, Mr. Mayor, if that's all right.
I have not heard anyone in this meeting say that any head of the departments could not be here to answer questions if we needed them to be here. I think what we're trying to do is these folks serve the public every single day. heard the mayor talk about overtime, or somebody said overtime. These folks don't get paid overtime. They don't get paid nowhere enough to do. I'm sure Chairman Rogers would be happy to get these folks here, and they will come in with bells on their toes to answer questions. To streamline.
You promise?
Well, Mayor, we'll have to take pictures.
One thing, and I'll have to talk to the department heads on this, we can get these reports out a little early to you, give you an opportunity to review them. If you have questions, you can pose those questions prior to the meeting, we can make sure answers are available. We're here to work with the committee. I think it's a good way, as Commissioner Smith said, to streamline the operations. Maybe make these meetings go a little quicker.
Pretty good.
I just want to push back a little bit. I don't believe this has anything to do with streamlining government at all. It's not going to get rid of any positions. It's not going to get rid of any salaries. It's not going to save the taxpayers any money. These are salary positions, and it goes with the job description to be here when required. That being said, I just think it's going to put another layer and more things being deferred to next month to find answers. And I'm still not sure how I feel about this. I don't want to lose the transparency that we have here for public to see the department heads speak to some of these items, or public to address some of these department heads directly in some public comments. These are some things I'm concerned with, and I just want to know, I'm not concerned with micromanaging and doing dictating. I don't care about that. I just don't want to lose the month-to-month reporting by the direct department head. That's all I'm saying.
What we're hearing from Commissioner Wright here, that, and I put more in the mouth, but I think I'm wrong, please tell me, but these folks out here would be here, but no qualms. They could have this here, so I don't, you're still gonna know the day-to-day operation. You still have the opportunity to request these folks to be here if needed through the mayor. Then I'll call for the question.
Okay, so, call for the questions, been made. All those in favor? Call for the questions.
Legals are rules to call the question. Are there anybody else?
Let's make sure what we're voting on first. I'm just going to run the table for you. The volunteer fire departments will go to the mayor for if there's a report. The sheriff, well, it was in its own ground. EMS, EMA, and the ECC come to the mayor's report. Is that right, Mayor? Yes, sir. That's the intent. Madam Clerk, call the roll.
Chairman Rogers?
Yes.
Commissioner Murdoch? No. Commissioner Smith?
Yes.
Commissioner Jones?
No.
Commissioner White?
Yes.
Commissioner Harris?
Yes.
4 yeses and 3 noes.
Thank you, Pat. All right. And then hazard mitigation plan, at least still at the federal level. Discussion about EMS job description, I believe that's a moving point, so we can roll that off of the agenda. Is that correct? So, we need to take any action with that, or we let it roll off? Thank you.
I have a question for that.
Yeah, we'll talk about that too.
It was a job description attached to the new position, so I thought we paid for that.
My understanding is that the 700 questions that we've asked on that was the one that outgoing Chief Miller had updated for himself, was the job description that was used in replacement of Chief Walker. All right, Homeland Security, District 5 grant, under new business 14A, anybody have a motion for discussion?
So much.
A motion by Commissioner Harris, second by Commissioner Jones. All those in favor, signify by saying aye. Aye. All those opposed? All right. Homeland Security District 5 grant. I think it pretty much speaks for itself. It's, that's yours, right? District Drive. Yeah. The District 5 grant, Homeland Security. It's my understanding it's pass-through money. They're buying the equipment that we need. Director White is here for any questions, I'm sure he'll be right there. Motion is second for discussion.
I have a question.
Go ahead.
It's for ballistic shield, or I'm confused.
It's for several things, there, that should be in the packet. So part of $21,400 is for body armor and ballistic helmets for the SWAT team.
I'm a little confused. I thought we had already bought that last fall. We had talked, were we talking about?
We bought some for, well, that may have been, no, I mean, there are about 35 SWAT operators in Sumner County, the county team and the district team. So that's a combination of buying equipment for the county yard team and the Field SWAT team.
So we're buying brand new for the city,
This is for the county yard team. That's what this is.
and which is the hundred and
No, it's made up of law enforcement agencies across the county with the exception of Westmoreland.
Why'd you give it to me?
We've had purchases body armor with them. For them. Why? Because that's the mechanism through this grant to purchase, the county is granted.
Okay.
To our homeless district.
That's the partner with us. All right, anybody else any questions? Favor, signify by saying aye. Aye. All those opposed? Thank you. All right, the next one is the BCIF grant. This is, have a motion, we see it on the floor for discussion. So moved by Commissioner Smith, second by Commissioner Jones. All those in favor, signify by saying aye. Aye. All those opposed? Go ahead, Steve.
So this is part of Governor Lee's law enforcement grant that he announced last year. There's two parts to it, right? There's designated chief agency and there's collaboration grant within the county. This one is specific to the sheriff's office. We applied for and was granted, obviously accepted the grant. And we're going to buy approximately 93 ballistic shields, put one in every school and then one in patrol cars in the case we have to go to an active shooting. A virtual reality training simulator, something that we wanted for several years. They can see by numbers there's We've got one detective right now, and he's slated to retire. He could go any day now. And just by God's grace, he's hanging on and helping us out. So, having these two guys go to the NFA, that's a $14,000 school, and it's nationally renowned. So, Governor's Grant's going to pay for it, and that's what we'd like to do.
All right, have a motion by Commissioner Smith, second by Commissioner Rice. All those in favor, signify by saying aye. Aye. All those opposed? All right.
That's on the budget too.
Yes, sir. I think both of these are falling on the budget. We put them there in hopes of success. All right, 14C is discussion on animal control temporary closure. We had that under the report of the sheriff. Anyone else have any other questions? So, Chief Deputy, you mind coming back up? I think we've got a report on that, but, yes. Commissioner Wright?
There you go.
Fantastic.
Couple questions.
Move the dream.
Our animal control officers, they go through a national certification.
Yes,
To be animal control officers, correct?
Yes, they're going to have them authorized.
Plus, they're also certified deputies in the state of Tennessee.
That's correct.
They handle cases from start to finish, correct?
Correct.
Search warrants, whatever is needed. Now, prior, and before the sheriff's office took over the animal control division, who handled all of the criminal investigations?
I believe that would have been the CID division where that jurisdiction.
So it was still, the sheriff's office handled all of the criminal investigations.
Correct.
As far as intake and animal control, Gallatin and Hendersonville, they're city animal control agency officers. Do they still bring their animals to the county?
I don't think Hendersonville brings them as often, and I think Alvin has trickled down, but yes, we do still take animals from other.
Now, does Portland, or have they slacked off?
Portland's like off significantly. I can think of one case in the past few months that comes to me that Portland on there.
How many square miles?
Is it Sumner County? 4,500? 546.
And the sheriff's office covers every single inch of it.
Correct.
Do we not assist, if needed, Hendersonville, Gallatin, Portland, especially in big cases?
This assisted viewers for a while, the animal shelter was closed, but some aggressive Rottweilers that need to be picked up, we start to control that now.
I can remember years ago, of course, you know my history. When I worked at Animal Control, we euthanized a lot. And when I say a lot, I mean a lot. Our numbers have drastically gone down over the years at our animal control agency. And part of that is because of the leadership from the people that work there, my supervision. We have some good people that work there. I can remember whenever the old animal control, when the county had it, it was horrible. Some of you haven't lived here that long. Some of you have. Whenever our animal control agency is open, we can't pick and choose animals that come into county. If somebody brings in a injured animal, we have to take it. If a citizen brings in a sick animal, we have to take it. Some of your other agencies that are not county funded in this county, they don't operate like that. They can pick and choose what comes in. We don't have that choice, or the sheriff's office does. Thank you, sir.
Is there a reason why there's no vaccinated animals that they were talking about?
I know that they threw out some numbers that makes it sound like we should have a vet there on call. That's just not the case, right? If you think that we only took 100 animals through our doors and through our care within the past 6 months, I'm not sure.
It's not that, I was about to talk about the vaccine, when they come in.
Those
Are
cost
they-
money, and we're not funded to a level where we can provide medical care to every dog is extremely helpful before they walk out the door. We're just not.
Mr. Chairman, I've got several questions, four, Deputy Chief, but I'm going to address them to you because I just want to see where we go with this. So, why we don't spay and neuter, I mean, that only makes sense, otherwise we're turning loose animals that get adopted out, that's contributing to the problem that we have with more and more animals that could come about in the county. The vaccination thing bothers me as well. Both of those things are required for adopting animals anywhere else.
to my knowledge, because I've adopted from shelters every time in my life that we've got a pet. The veterinarians, what's required by state law for places with animals, that many animals coming in and out. $450,000 in salaries that was reported. I'd like to see a breakdown of that. The vehicles used for just animal controls. I'd like to see where the $24,000 number come from. Euthanasia and all the keeping forward that fluctuate depending on how many numbers they have. The dog licensing, I'd like to hear more about that and how that would help with finding the homes for these pets that are lost and interconnecting agencies and stuff. They closed in '76. When it closed, how long it was actually closed for, was reported almost a month, but you said it's 5 days from the last symptoms, so why it took 3.5 weeks to get all that under control. When did the sheriff's office take over this and why? And do they still want responsibility for it? Is it truly to the animals? I don't know if this is a place where an ad hoc committee is needed to talk about this, but I don't think we're going to come up with all the answers to this in this committee meeting. But I know these are questions that my constituents and a lot of people have problems with, and I don't think they're going to be solved tonight. So I want to ask you, what do you suggest we do to find these answers to help the situation? I want to help them. I want to help the people that have an issue with it. I don't think either group is at odds. I think everybody loves animals and wants to do the right thing for them. And it may not be that they have the capacity to handle it.
So I think that, respectfully, I would suggest all of that right there really needs to go to the sheriff. Because the only thing this committee can do, they say, here's your budget ideas, and we send it to budget. The sheriff is his own elected official. And legal, if I'm wrong, tell me I'm wrong. But all of those operational questions, what's your policies, all of that inner workings of that stuff is controlled by the sheriff. There's nothing that I'm trying to answer your questions now. There's nothing that we as county commissioners can do other than say, yes, here's you some money, or no, here's not your money. And he is the elected official of that department. So if I'm wrong, correct. So I think that's really where your answers are going to come from, is an email to the sheriff or a visit to the sheriff or Sheriff Hamilton's role to figure out what's going on and then report back to your constituents. Yes.
Great. This came to this committee tonight, though, and I think citizens came to the committee and what we're going to do about it. We just heard a lot of disturbing information and more information than a lot of people knew. And to resolve this, would it be proper to ask these questions? It's in a meeting, it's public now, it's on video. Would it be proper to ask Deputy Chief Craddock if put this to a future date that we could address some of these things for the public?
So we can roll it to old business for next month, and then send the questions, I guess, comments, concerns to the sheriff. Or send, actually, the proper way it would be, since we just did 13A, the proper thing would be to send them through the mayor's office, have the mayor's office send them to me, and request that the sheriff be here next month to address this if we roll it to old business for next month. That would be how it would need to follow through. Is that right?
The sheriff got carved out, so
correct.
That would be a different.
The sheriff can send the email to me, or you would send it to me, I would send it to the sheriff, requesting the sheriff to be here next month. Is how that would need to work.
Okay, and I respect all the committee members, all the third members who would vote on doing that. I'm fine with that.
You're the one asking the questions. I'm just suggesting that would probably be the cleanest and easiest way to do it. But this guy is not the elected official. I get it, he's there, but the decisions, the policies and all that stuff, I think would be better to come from the sheriff. Or if the sheriff says, hey, I'm gonna send chief deputy there to report on my behalf, he knows what's going on, then okay, that's fair enough as well. As the chairman, that's what I think would be the cleaner way to handle it, rather than have Chief try to answer all these questions that come to him right now. That's the will of the body, that's fine to do, I mean, that seems reasonable. All right, so that'll be under old business next month, in the September meeting. All right, and here's the last final motion. Second.